Well, somehow, just like that, we've ended up in the middle of the week. It's Wednesday, the 14th of June. Thank you very much for dropping into TNT for our daily whip around the main stories around Thailand. And if there's interesting things happening regionally, we'll certainly bring that to you as well. I think we've got one regional story today. Now, plenty to talk about, but we'll start with a few follow-ups. This one from Mail Online, a story we covered last week, quite a lot of comment. Aussie woman whose insurer, and I have to mention that this headline basically covers the whole story. Aussie woman whose insurer refused to pay her hospital bills because she was too drunk when she fell heavily after ordering 9 Long Island iced teas on Thai holiday now gets some good news. Kylie Enright suffered a brain injury in Thailand. Her travel insurance, Cover More, denied her claim. Now she's being flown home after people raised $200,000. So they're all the main points. Now we'll go through what happened to this woman once again. Let's see what the Mail Online story says. Kylie Enright, 48, has been fighting for life in a coma since May the 28th after she fell heavily and hit her face on a roadway during a holiday in the beach resort of Khao Lak in southern Thailand. Insurer Cover More claims Ms. Enright's fall was caused by her excessive drinking of multiple beers and Long Island iced tea cocktails, even though her blood alcohol level was never tested in hospital. I think that's an interesting point, that her blood alcohol level was never actually tested, and would probably give an opportunity for the Enright family to sue the insurer. However, who really wants to take on a large insurance company? They've obviously got enough to worry about as it is. Instead, the company used the couple's bar tab, CCTV footage, and Mrs. Enright's body weight to calculate an estimated blood alcohol level of 0.35. That is very, very high indeed at the time of her fall, more than 7 times Australia's legal driving, I think that's meant to say the alcohol limit, which is 0.05 in Australia. Her distraught husband Paul was unable to afford the $200,000 plus cost of chartering a medical evacuation flight back to their home in Singleton, New South Wales, let alone his wife's hospital bill, which had already surpassed $50,000. But here's the good news. After 3,000 people donated almost $207,000 to a GoFundMe page set up for the couple, Mr. Enright is in the process of organising a medical retrieval for his wife. And a GoFundMe rep called Olivia Kennedy says a positive sign. Kylie started to open her eyes for 10 to 15 minute increments during the day. And she goes on to say, Covermore is fair and reasonable in our claim processes, and we make our decisions after thoroughly assessing all available details and medical information. And this is a sad case, and we'll continue to offer Paul and Kylie and their families all the non-financial assistance Covermore can. Well, that's about it, I suppose, from the Covermore company, a private company. The insurers are going to do what they can to save themselves having to pay out, but at least some good news there. A GoFundMe campaign has come out to support the Enright family. I hope Kylie does continue to recover. Moving on to our next story today, The Nation saying that nearly 6,400 people laid low in Phuket by a digestive disease outbreak. Oh, let me say, it's a lot more than that. And I'm not sure if you noticed last week, but I was pretty much down and out with this particular bug. And I had all the symptoms, and I knew I had this norovirus, gastrointestinal virus, pretty nasty. But I just pushed on and kept on working because, well, I really didn't have time to slow down, but it certainly laid a lot of people low. I should also say that I was visiting the Bangkok hospital yesterday to visit Sean Stenning, actually, and the car park, I've never seen it so packed with cars. So I think the hospital's doing pretty brisk business over this particular virus. And a viral outbreak targeting the digestive system has left near 6,400 people fighting diarrhea in Phuket province in the last week. And the symptoms include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea and fever. And the local health office says that about 70% of the patients in hospital had been infected with the norovirus, which causes inflammation of the digestive system and spreads quickly. However, he said the number of patients with diarrhea had declined. Well, that's nice to know, adding that students who developed symptoms earlier had recovered. Certainly, in my mind, I was going back thinking, now what have I eaten today? I was sure I had food poisoning. I was sort of relieved to know that, in fact, it was a bug that was going around. And we suspect that the digestive disease spread from water resources and ice, so we collected samples from 6 factories and tap water in Phuket for inspection. The results are expected within a week. And he added that the office has cooperated with related agencies on creating awareness among foreign tourists on the island in a bid to gain their confidence. Well, I've seen nothing of that, but at least the story is being covered in the media, and that is certainly making people aware. And just checked with the CDC.com, and they said about norovirus, it's a very contagious virus that causes vomiting and diarrhea. Anyone can get infected and sick. Norovirus is sometimes called the stomach flu or stomach bug. However, norovirus illness is not related to the flu, which is caused by the influenza virus. So there you go. I think I said nonovirus earlier. It's norovirus, and a lot more than the 6,400 people reported there. Just about everyone I've spoken to over the past few days has been down with this bug. So it certainly had quite an impact on people living in Phuket. Good to see that it's now sort of being sorted out, and wherever it's spread from, that could be quite an interesting story if we ever find out. Big thanks to 5 Star Marine. If you'd like to head out, to any of the islands off Phuket with a private VIP charter, then I can recommend 5 Star Marine. I know Scott D and his family are coming out to Phuket next month, and they've got a day trip organised already. And now there's a link in the description, by the way, and you'll get a special deal if you are a TNT viewer. And yes, I've got it out of my system, whatever it was. I'm feeling much better, thank you very much. NationThailand.com reporting Prayut pushes for another diesel tax cut extension as the expiry date nears. So this diesel subsidy we've had for over a year now, and it seems to have actually been a very good control of inflation, given that so many things are delivered, especially food, by, trucks with diesel engines. And the caretaker PM Prayut Chan-o-cha has ordered the Finance Ministry and other relevant agencies to finalise preparations for extending the diesel tax cut. Yes, the Cabinet still sits down every Tuesday and runs the country. They are in caretaker mode as we await for a new government to be organised. And we'll have a bit more news about that coming up in a moment. And the Excise Department Director General says the department needs to discuss the issue with the Finance Ministry before making any move, pointing out that extending the tax cut would hit the government revenue. So far, 7 successive rounds of diesel tax cuts have cost the government 158 billion baht in lost revenue. So it certainly cost the government a pretty penny so far, but it has seemed to keep the inflation rate down in many quarters. Now to our next story now from Thai PBS World, in Canada to become a strategic partner of ASEAN. So this story, when I read that, the first thing I thought was it's about as silly as Australia being part of the Eurovision Song Contest. Mind you, I'm very happy we are, and I do love Eurovision, and I love cheering on the Australians. But Canada? Part of ASEAN? ASEAN, by the way, stands for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So try and figure this one out. And ASEAN and Canada will hold a summit in September to commemorate Canada's new status as a strategic dialogue partner of ASEAN. And just noting in the next paragraph, they're having some problems with their spacebar at Thai PBS World. After long delay, Canada will finally become the bloc's latest strategic partner. Currently, ASEAN has 5 such partners, including New Zealand, Japan, the EU, South Korea and Russia. And China, Australia, the US and India are the 4 comprehensive strategic partners of ASEAN. The UK became a dialogue partner of ASEAN in 2021. And last year, the Canadian PM Justin Trudeau attended the first ASEAN-Canada summit to commemorate its 45th anniversary in Phnom Penh. Now, I've got absolutely nothing against Canada, but I mean, this is ASEAN. I don't know why they're giving all these countries these flowery names like comprehensive strategic partner. ASEAN really do very little to help the ASEAN countries, let alone getting all these other countries involved as well. And that next paragraph, the bloc, essentially ASEAN as a trade bloc, has several categories of relations with its dialogue partners. Norway and Pakistan are sectoral dialogue partners. Oh, there's another space problem. While Germany and Chile are development dialogue partners. They're ranked according to the intensity and substance of interactions and benefits to ASEAN. Look, I get all that, but the headline I'd like to be seeing from ASEAN is ASEAN trying to fix the problem in Myanmar. That's the big elephant in the room for the region, and I would like to think that ASEAN could become much more involved fixing that critical issue just next door to Thailand. Next story now from BangkokPost.com. Political vacuum sparks jitters. And talking, of course, about the formation of a new government with the May 14 election now a month in the rear-view mirror. The private sector has expressed concern that any delay in the formation of a new government may have an adverse impact on the economy. And the chairman of the Thai Chamber of Commerce says the private sector would like a new government to be formed quickly. Any delays could slow down the economy. And they say, worryingly, that it's estimated the new government may not be able to take shape in August, and the bid to form a government may drag on until September. And the chairman says the new government should be formed as quickly as possible for the country's best interests. And a feature story in VOA News, that's from Voice of America, coalition efforts to lead Thai government in limbo, according to an expert. And already questions are being raised about whether the winners will ever have an opportunity to govern the country. And the article goes on, for many Thais, the elections were seen as a gateway into a new political era and an end to several years, that should read decades, of instability marked by military rule, civil unrest and economic downturns. Outpolling all other parties with 151 of the 500 seats of Parliament's lower house, the party then formed a coalition with 7 other opposition parties, including previous winners per Thai, to reach a total of 312 seats. And the article goes on with a bit more background as to what's been happening since the election. And the obstacles Peter and his party are facing highlight the country's ongoing struggle to move away from a hybrid military regime that's still committed to protecting vested interests in the conservative status quo. Comments there from a local political scientist, pretty much spot on. And Thailand's electoral officials have until July 13 to certify at least 95% of the MPs who were elected and officially announce the results. Until then, it's unlikely the Senate will decide whom to back. Thailand's new cabinet is expected to be in place by August, when it will vote for the next Prime Minister. They might just have that last sentence wrong. I think that when we have the joint sitting of Parliament, which will probably happen in late July, is that they will firstly nominate a Prime Minister from the Prime Ministerial candidates, and then the formation of the actual government and the cabinet will follow that. Wednesday's TNT. Thanks for dropping in. If you do get an opportunity, please subscribe to the channel because that helps us more than anything to slowly grow the channel. Now, interesting story from Thai Inquirer, and that's thaiinquirer.com. In reality, Thailand is not the LGBTQ plus paradise like it pretends to be. Just like democracy in this country. The Thai Inquirer having quite a strong pro-democracy stance generally. The LGBTQ plus rights are also just illusional. Well, at least there's hope for our democratic system right now, it says. You might think that Thailand seems like the sweetest paradise when it comes to being an LGBTQ plus person, but under this rainbow surface, the country has yet to officially pass any regulations for all gender inclusive. Thailand's reputation as an LGBT-friendly haven stems from the historic tolerance and acceptance of gender diversity. We've embraced our transgender community, who are visible in various social and cultural spheres. However, Thailand does not have any explicit laws safeguarding LGBTQ+ rights. The absence of legal protections leaves the community vulnerable to discrimination, harassment, and unequal treatment. Same-sex relationships, for instance, cannot legally get married, denying LGBTQ+ couples the fundamental rights and benefits enjoyed by heterosexual couples, such as inheritance rights, joint property ownership, and adoption rights. And for all those people who were whinging last week about the Pride Parade, it's just those particular rights that Pride is all about. And despite its progressive image, the country faces significant challenges in bridging the gap between appearance and substance when it comes to LGBT rights, and only then can the nation truly live up to its reputation as a welcoming paradise for the LGBTQ+ community. Can't they just call it the rainbow community or something? Sort of sick of going through that increasingly long alphabet every time. And a story from Coconuts Bangkok from their coconuts.co website. Uniform choice. Rural Thai high school praised for embracing gender diversity. A high school tucked in the northern corner of Thailand is relaxing the public school system's strict rules to allow teachers and students to choose their uniforms according to their gender identity. And the school's getting props for endorsing a teacher's preference for trousers instead of long skirts and extending the same freedoms to students. Now, I just know this story is going to trigger some of you, and I don't know why. I just don't get it. If people feel a bit more comfortable wearing long pants instead of a skirt, does that really bother you? News of the change in school dress code spread after Patumporn posted a photo posing in the traditional male government uniform and thanked the school for approving a request to wear it. The school also announced that its new policy also applied to students who have long been held to strict codes for how they dress and wear their hair. Something that students have over, especially the last decade, have really been pushing to change. And the principal said he accepts the diverse range of gender seen in modern society and wants everyone to express their true selves. Therefore, he held a meeting with the teachers to discuss a happier workplace. After submitting the uniform request on Friday, Patumporn shared the school's approval online, which was liked and shared thousands of times. And subsequently, the school acknowledged that 3 students who identify as transgender had requested accommodation. The school said it granted them permission after consulting with their parents. And the school noted another 10 students seeking to dress and wear their hair as they prefer. And there's a photo there of Patumporn, who looks perfectly comfortable standing there with a pair of pants rather than wearing a skirt. Heading down to Phuket now, and the latest in the taxi mafia saga, and the Phuket taxi drivers file formal complaints to officials over mobile application taxis. And this story reported by the PhuketExpress.com. And Phuket taximeter drivers have filed formal complaints to relevant officials asking for assistance over what they call illegal mobile application taxis. Well, actually they're not anymore, so time for these taxi drivers to come into the 21st century and understand that things have changed. The letter states that many taxi drivers in Phuket have been affected financially because allegedly many illegal vehicles are being used as mobile application taxis. So we'll get into the illegalities in just a moment, but one of the main reasons they're not getting so many taxi fares is that the amount of tourists in Phuket has drastically dropped over the past 2 or 3 months. I think that's got something to do with it. Taxi drivers are using certified and uncertified mobile applications. According to a spokesperson, passengers and drivers are confused. Yes, I'll agree with that. They think that certified mobile applications can be used with black license plate vehicles, that's personal cars, without any legal registration as a licensed transport vehicle or proper transport insurance, registration and license. And the Land Transport Office officials say they're trying to figure out a way to solve these problems, as nearly every day there's some sort of incident between rival taxi driver groups. Well, the rival taxi groups are basically the old traditional taxi drivers and their cabal, and these new app-based drivers. Although some applications, most notably Bolt, have been certified, drivers are expected to have a legal transport plate, licence registration, insurance and other documentation required for a taxi driver to operate. There's no doubt that not a day goes by that we have another confrontation between these rival taxi organisations, and it doesn't look good, especially when you have a bewildered tourist sitting in the back saying, "What the hell's going on?" I mean, the situation in Phuket, quite different from other areas in the country, has an existential public transport problem, which just pisses off tourists and, well, locals alike every single day. And it's just causing so much bad PR for the island, and a lot of those people are simply not going to come back just because of this issue. Now, thank you very much for dropping in today. Hopefully you're a bit more up to date with things happening around Thailand. It's been a great pleasure to bring it to you. Please subscribe to the channel, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.